All right, it's 7 o'clock on the second Wednesday. It's time for the Chelmsford Planning Board meeting of January 11th, 2023. As usual, we're on Zoom, and we have a little bit of feedback too, I think. We're on Zoom. You're welcome to Zoom in if you want. We won't stop the meeting if Zoom goes down, but we do have 2 members tonight that have Zoomed in. I think 3. Okay, we got Paul, we got Tim, and Erica are all Zoomed in. All right, so with that said, before we get to the public input, a couple of things have dropped off for tonight. We won't be covering the 12 Kidder Road administrative review. The one set of attorneys couldn't make it. And 270 Billerica Road has requested a continuance, which I imagine we will grant. So we won't be covering that. We have 240 Groton Road, we have Jackson Road, and we have 250 Apollo Drive tonight. So, without further ado, the administrative item on is Jackson Road. Can you fill us in? I guess it's just...
Do we need to do a continuance for Kidder?
That's not an open hearing in the sense of a public hearing. There's no reason not to,
I
but...
believe February 8th is the preferred date,
Is February 8th the preferred date?
just for one party.
Okay.
Okay, then I move that we do a continuance
You-
of 12 Kidder Road to February 8th.
Okay, the other party's good with it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. You're going to dinner, huh? Good night. Thank you for coming. Okay. Jackson Road, looks like a request to establish performance guarantee and release of lots from covenant.
Yeah, so in your packet, the hard copies, I've provided you a memo from DPW dated today, which is a narrative supporting DPW's bond estimates. They have a Phase 1 bond estimate and a Phase 2 bond estimate. Then a following page is the completed certificate of release for the lots that are proposed to be released from your covenant. And then the final pages of the handout are just a printout version of the signed lot plan for the subdivision for your reference.
Okay.
So what's in front of you is fairly routine as far as procedure. If you've driven by recently, the subdivision road has been substantially constructed. Infrastructure within the road or under the road is complete and installed.
Place.
The first 6 duplexes are complete. One of the major items that is holding back occupancy is there's no electricity on the site right now. So that's a continuing challenge that the developer has with National Grid. And as you can see from the bond, what is being proposed to the planning board this evening is basically a phased approach. Phased, it was constructed in 2 phases, and it is proposed to be bonded in 2 phases, and it is proposed to be occupied in 2 phases, and essentially completed in 2 phases. So online tonight are a variety of members, I think in the room as well, from the development team, if you happen to have any questions, and Trevor Collins from DPW, who was involved in the bond estimate, is also on Zoom with us this evening.
Okay. So let me kind of sum it up. Are they looking at setting up and granting occupancy to the lots in 2 chunks?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. So what we're looking for this evening from the board are two separate votes for two separate purposes. The first is to establish a bond in the amount of $200,000 per the DPW memo dated January
Okay.
11th.
Okay.
That memo includes several conditions that are embedded in that memo, speaking to sequencing and items that need to be done in order for Phase 2.
okay, that's pretty
proceed.
routine with those sorts of things.
Yes. And then the second vote per the certificate of release is to release those first 6 lots that have duplexes on them, Lot 1, Lot 2, Lot 3,
Yeah.
Lot 10, 11, and 12. And then there is, if you recall, a non-buildable lot, which is Lot 13.
Right.
Which I believe is being conveyed to an abutter.
Okay,
The remaining 6 lots that are not constructed.
yeah, they're on the second half of this.
Second Phase 2 are still under your covenant, and we'll
Okay.
repeat this process when we
Gotcha.
get to Phase 2.
Okay, so we're not actually going to act on the Phase 2
Correct,
bond tonight?
correct.
All right. Let's see, what did, well, obviously DPW thought it was reasonable because they came up with a number.
But DPW also says that potential homeowners should be made aware of the extensive work that needs to be completed, and that they're going to be
Yeah.
living in a construction zone.
That's, not a bad point.
Correct. It is self-evident if a potential buyer were to do a site visit.
Yeah, they'd see it, I know. Okay,
Mr. Chair, this is Attorney Melissa Robbins.
Oh, yes.
speaking. Just to answer Nan's question quickly, the lots that are, the buyers are already under agreement. So these are already, have been pushed out a considerable amount of time. We thought we'd have power already. So these buyers in particular know the status of the lot. And just, I wanted to say quickly that this may be unusual for Chelmsford to have phase construction, just because I can't remember the last subdivision where we actually did this in phases. Generally, we do this as one bond, but since we have 2 sets of lots here, we're doing it Phase 1 and Phase 2. But it's not unusual in other towns where we have larger subdivisions where we phased it out. I know Trevor's on the call, but the other
Yeah.
item that the engineering department has requested is that we ask for no release from the units in Lot 2 until we finish the work in Phase 1, and we're satisfied with that condition. I'm happy to answer any other questions the board may have as well.
sounds reasonable enough. Are there any questions from the board?
No, but officially I'm recusing myself.
Okay, understood. Paul, Tim, Erica?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay,
I'm good.
I'm good as well.
okay, so no questions there. Anybody from the proponent like to say anything additional about this? It seems pretty routine. Well,
Okay, in that case, I move that we establish a bond for the Jackson Road development, Phase 1, at $200,000.
probably with conditions as noted.
With conditions as noted. Yeah.
Okay,
Second that.
thanks, Tim. Any other thoughts? I guess I'll shoot this around. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's 3, 4, 1 recusal.
Aye.
5.
Aye.
6. All right. 6 yes, 1 recusal. Okay,
Now we're moving on to the release of the lots.
okay. And that's 7 lots, 6 of them buildable, 1 of them not buildable.
Correct.
Any questions from the board? May I have a motion?
No question.
I'm going to try this one. I move that we provide a certificate of release of Phase 1 lots 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, and the non-buildable lot of 13, conditioned upon the established bond and other conditions as stated.
Okay. Sounds good.
Second that.
Thanks, Tim. Further comments? In favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4 here.
Aye.
6.
Aye.
All right, 601. Okay. That was easy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ma'am.
Sure. Okay. Next one is, this is a new public hearing. Do we have a notice that needs to be read here?
If you could open the hearing, if it's not in the file, you can read it off the agenda.
Okay, well, I have the agenda here.
I have department letters.
Maybe towards the back of the file,
Yeah, let's see if we can find it.
the paper file in the bucket. Otherwise, you can just read it off the agenda.
There's not much on the agenda, actually.
Right.
But this being a new hearing, I think we ought to read it.
This might be it. Chelmsford Planning Board will conduct a public hearing on Wednesday, January 11th, 2023, at 7 p.m. at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Bellricker Road, room 204, to consider the application of Attorney Douglas C. DeShane requesting a definitive subdivision approval for Newport Landing subdivision proposal consisting of a 2-lot private way with a 2-family dwelling in each lot, total of 4 new residential units at 264 Groton Road. This property is located in the RC zoning district and is shown as parcel ID map 23, block 92, lot 8, and consists of approximately 1.81 acres. A copy of the proposal is available in the Community Development Department in room LL01 of the town offices, 50 Bellricker Road, Chelmsford, Mass. 01824, and may be viewed during business hours.
Okay.
The copies were also attached to the agenda electronically.
Okay. Very good. Okay, give us a quick,
I think we have a
Description.
representative.
well, then take it away.
Just, good evening, Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants.
Okay.
I was just getting text from Attorney Doug DeShane. Says car troubles and he'll be here in 20 minutes. So I don't know if we want to push or if,
Want to move on to
Do we
250?
want to,
Yeah, that's just, if you don't mind delaying it a little bit, we can certainly take on 250 Apollo Drive and get back to you.
thank you
Is
very
that
much.
acceptable?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay,
okay.
in that case,
In that case, we have 270 Bellricker Road up next.
that has
And
been
I would,
continued.
I know, but I would move that we approve the continuation to, Evan, what date?
February 8th.
February 8th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have it. Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Aye.
Aye, 6.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's 7. 7-0. Okay,
So 250 Apollo, you opened the hearing, but I don't recall if we've received any testimony.
I don't
Okay.
I don't
remember
believe
that we did.
So I believe there are representatives from the project there?
Good evening, my name's Jim Hanley with Civil Design Consultants, and I'm here tonight with Matt Jaros, the project architect who's with CI Design, and Bill Olson, who's the construction manager with Windover Construction. So I'm going to kind of just give you a brief intro here and then hand it off to the project architect who can kind of walk you through the building and what we're proposing. Then I'll come back in and give you a little bit of summary of the site conditions and why we're here and what we're trying to do tonight. So, project's located at 250 Apollo Drive. This is kind of leads into Progress Avenue, and it's off of Billerica Road. Limited industrial is the underlying zoning district. We're also within the CEIOD, the Route 129 Business Amenity Overlay District, and the Aquifer Protection District. You might recall we were here in June. The CEIOD is a two-step process. We're going to come in front of you first and essentially request consideration to allow us to go through the special permit process. We did do that with you in June, I believe it was. Basically took the next few months to really work on our concept plan, develop a decent set of permit documents. Submitted that in October. I believe it was October, about October 20th, give or take. And then since that time, we've been working with different town departments to address some of their comments. So I'll leave it at that. I'll turn this over to Matt. He can kind of give you an overview of the building, the use, and what we're trying to do, and then I'll come back and address some of the site issues.
Okay, thank you. And one quick question before you go. Is this pretty much the same as what we saw in June? There have not been really big changes of any sort?
Yeah, it's almost identical. If you
Okay.
look at the application, you might see some of the numbers are a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that we
the
expect.
Final design, but yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
Matthew Juros of CI Design, and Mr. Belansky, I think you have the...
I do. Do you want to start with the site plans or the?
Yeah, I think that's a
Okay,
good way.
I have them
to
up.
go. Okay. So let's go ahead and, well, we can start here.
Oh, I'm going to run it from here, because these are your plan set.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, so that's fine. So we can start with this one.
Which is existing conditions.
Perfect. So, and I'm going to use a laser pointer. If that's too intense for anyone's eyes, please let me know. Should I not use it? No. It's okay. Thanks. Okay, so 250 Apollo Drive is an existing two-story building here. It's built in, I believe, the early 80s, fully tenanted. And we're considering a part of the site that's out in the back here in the existing parking lot, and we're proposing to do approximately a 40,000 square foot addition that would be a light industrial use. We're looking to attract a light industrial tenant. And so here's the proposed footprint of the building. Our Jim Hanley can go back and describe the approach to parking and the other site considerations, but generally it's a square building about 192 by 200 feet. It's attached to the existing building and would share common corridor and elevators and circulation and so forth. It would have its own entry at the rear corner here. The site slopes down from high up here to low up here, approximately 1 story. So you enter at grade if you enter on this side of the upper floor, what we're calling, which is coplanar with the ground floor of the existing building. And then if you enter at the back corner here, you would be entering at grade there, which is the lower level of the building. And you can access the upper floor by an elevator and so forth. So we can go ahead and see the next. And let's continue past the civil engineering. We can get to the architectural, and I'll run through the basics of the building, and then Jim can circle back with the specifics of how the site has worked out. Thanks, Evan. So this is looking from the low side at the corner entry there, and you can see that the main part of the building here, which is the floor is coplanar with the ground floor of the existing building, is up there, and then here's a lower level. The intended use would be light industrial up top here, so we've got a 25-foot clear head height. In a large open space here, it's got shell and core is really what we've got so far. And so this is the exterior shell. The core would have toilet rooms and stairs and elevator and so forth, and be located in this back corner. So the work floor, as it were, would be upstairs there, and the lower level, we imagine, would be same tenant or a different tenant office spaces. Some perspective views. We have an existing loading dock in this area that's used by the existing building that has one dock. We would propose to enlarge and expand it, and add a pair of additional loading docks in that area that would serve both the existing building and the new facility there. So we can roll past those. So lower level ground floor plan, again, the entryway is back in this back corner. We're imagining that we would have habitable space around the sort of exterior perimeter. Depending on what tenanting looked like and so forth, we would likely leave the interior unexcavated and unoccupied. If we had tenants that couldn't be told no, we would happily build and locate the more tenant space in the lower level. We also have a mechanical space down in the lower level there. So we can roll into the next. And, oh, thanks. And so we can see the sort of the salient features here is the circulation core of the existing building, which adjoins our building right there. Adjacent to that is the loading area of the existing building with ours expanded here, and so there would be a loading area here. And then in the location of the entryway in the lower level, we've got our core elements, which are toilet rooms, the conference room we're showing, elevator and stairs and so forth. The structure of the building itself is intended to be a pre-engineered steel building, which would be erected relatively quickly and have a fairly simple exterior cladding system that's got insulation built into the cladding system. So these are called in the vernacular butler buildings and are often sort of less interesting buildings. The company we're working with has actually a wide variety of exterior fenestration, window treatments, exterior cladding, and so forth. Colored detailed profiles of the extruded aluminum cladding give us a pretty interesting sort of palette to work with. And so what we're intending to do is to add tall windows at the corners that would be up high from the work floor up here, and to do a system of mullions that would project out and cast shadows and provide shade from direct sunlight, and add sort of a way of sort of bringing the scale down. We also have a series of windows, thanks Evan, into the office spaces in the lower level. Section on the interior. Whoops! So these are exterior elevations of the other side.
Same thing.
That's the section, thanks. And so here we have the main work floor, again with a 25-foot at the highest point, clear span on the interior, and then sort of a standard, I think, 11-foot floor-to-floor in the lower level, which is office space and utility space. And that's it. It's a relatively simple building. It's a spec building. We expect that we would have a light manufacturing tenant interested here. We're looking at anything from robotic manufacturing or any of the types of industries that are sort of showing growth in our area. So I'll turn it back over to Jim, and we can sort of talk through some of the specifics of how the site is working out.
Great. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. Evan, could you possibly get the existing condition? There you go, right there. So just picking up where Matt left off and circling back to the site. So the existing use is office. It's 2 stories, about 75,000 square feet per floor, about 150,000 square feet altogether. Lot's about 11 acres in size. We have about 654 feet of frontage. Matt indicated that it grades from basically Apollo Drive down to the back area. In this area here, there's a existing detention basin which we will keep and use. You can see there that the majority of the site is developed, paved, with parking, and there's about 670 existing parking spaces. Currently, the existing building is serviced by town water and sewer, electric, telephone, cable, and gas by private developers, suppliers. If you can just go down one. So the proposed condition, as Matt indicated, it's a building addition. It's completely located in the existing parking area, so we don't have any increase in impervious surface at all. Again, it's clean manufacturing, and then the bottom floor would be some sort of office support for the manufacturing use. The ground floor, you can see this dash line here. That's about 14,000 square feet, give or take, for the office, and about 36,000 square feet on the upper floor or the main floor for the clean manufacturing. We have provisions for for trash compaction and pickup in that area here, and then also Matt indicated that we increased the capacity of the loading docks as well. I'll also note that, the turn sweep analysis that we did in and out of this was based on an 18-wheeler tractor trailer 50 feet long, as well as the town's fire department emergency apparatus. So we looked at all of that I believe we provided that in the application as well. We're generally maintaining existing site grades and drainage patterns. Everything currently kind of drains in this way down to the bottom right, and that's what we'll be doing in the future. Very minor modifications to the existing detention basin. We got some comments back from DPW relative to what they would like to see in there. We've made some initial attempts to contact conservation. We believe a request for determination of applicability might be the way to go, as opposed to a full notice of intent, because we have an existing basin that has been maintained, so it doesn't have the same protections as like a natural wetland area. One thing I want to note is parking. So the actual required parking, if we look at the uses specific to the existing building and the proposed building, the required parking is 710 parking spaces. What we're providing is 553. That's a 21% reduction to what is required. Your bylaw allows for reductions up to 25%. That can be found in section 195, 115, and 195, 18.
I'm sorry, you said this is 21%?
Minus 21%, yes. So we're within the
Yep.
allowances, yeah. And of course, we've worked closely with the building owner and to make sure that the amount of parking that we're providing for the use is acceptable. So where do we stand right now? So I'll just kind of recap where we've been. So we met with you on the 21st of June for the initial CEIOD special permit. We submitted in October. The end of October and the beginning of November, we got 4 or 5 different review letters from the town. We don't take any exception with any of the comments that were made in any of the review letters. We're working to address these comment letters. We did not want to submit anything before we came back, or before we came and provided you with this presentation to see if you had any comments. We can roll it into one submission. With that said, I'm not sure if you're aware the town has a bit of a sewer challenge.
Yeah, we've heard.
That's right. So that would be the one comment that we're trying to work through with DPW. We actually went to the select board meeting on, I think it was the 7th of December. They had basically representatives from the applicable departments and boards to talk about how to address this. There is a plan in place to get there. The plan has not been finalized, but in essence, what is allowed as of right now is an increase of 500 gallons per day. with no mitigation. We cannot, we're going to have more flow than that. Based on Title V says we're going to have about 1,350 gallons per day. Title V is very conservative, right? So that 1,350 in reality might be closer to 800 gallons per day, so we're pretty close to the 500. I spoke with the town engineer yesterday afternoon. Apparently, they met on Monday night to further refine their plan. And in essence, what we're going to do is commit to working with the DPW to develop a plan to address some amount of II that is getting into the system now to offset what we will put into the system. You'll notice on the plan that we have a septic system on there, and it was very clear from Water and Board of Health that that was basically a non-starter. When the plan comes back, you'll see that we'll be tying into, we actually have there's an existing, the sewer out of the existing building is in this general area here. We'll be tying into that existing sewer, probably need some sort of small E1 pump that will pump it up into there because the flow is just not that significant, very similar to a couple of single-family houses, maybe 3 or 4, give or take. So with that said, I guess the recap is about 35,000 square feet of clean manufacturing, 15,000 square feet of office, located in the existing parking area. I noted I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page as far as the parking in your ability to allow us the reduction that we're requesting. It's been designed to meet the tractor trailer and the fire department, and we'll work with the town to address the sanitary sewer requirements as they come into focus. With that said, if you have any questions, try to answer them for you.
Yeah. Anybody? I got one. I'd like to, could you clarify a little bit the situation on that first floor? If I understand it, you don't plan to fill all of that out. Some of that will just be left rough.
Yes, so the first floor, we would call this the ground floor, let's say.
Yeah, and it's-
And you
I
can
can see
see this line here, right? So because of the way the grades work, we basically have a 10-foot drop across the site from this general area
Yeah.
down to here. And so it gave us a really good opportunity to provide office space as part of the construction of the foundation without having to go higher. So that's the idea, is that this right here is 15,000 square feet. It'll be office in support of that.
And I gather that the parking calculations, the sewer calculations are premised on that and not on the entire space. I mean, there is a floor area question here. Would there be any situation in which you would imagine, of course, I suppose once you built the building, it's a little tough to dig out underneath it, but it's been done.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. I mean, this is the plan that we're coming in with, unless something significant changes.
Okay.
Yeah, just because of the way the site worked. Now we'd be, here we're building walls, where here we'd have to excavate out 10 or 12 feet of material.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of work.
It's different, yeah.
Okay, so it's, we will assume that if anything were to need to happen underneath there after the building was complete,
Of
that it
course.
would come back in, it would be at least a minor mod, if not something else. And we would have another shot at it.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question.
I had a couple of questions. So is this a separate entity than 250 Apollo Drive? Is this a space that's supporting the existing building?
Okay, so the ownership would be the same.
So it is the owner, the two buildings are going to be owned by the same party?
Yes, and I'm just looking to make sure that I got it right, but yeah, the ownership would be the same, but this is currently leased office space, right? So the use is, it'll be a different tenant, I guess.
Yeah, no, because a couple of comments have been made tonight about, we've met with the owner of 250. So that tells me there's two separate owners there. And that's a couple of comments that was made.
Just a misunderstanding.
Is that a
Yeah,
misunderstanding?
back in June, during the preliminary COA process, the property owner, who is the applicant.
Right, he was here.
Yes.
Gentleman.
And it remains the same.
Okay. And, all right, that's great, thanks for cleaning that up. And then sustainability, have you thought about anything for sustainability of solar array or any type of, there's a new initiative here in town for that, and we're looking at that at every project.
Put it into the microphone, and I get the laser too. So, it's my favorite. We got a lot of roof space here, and you know, I think it's hard to imagine building anything in Massachusetts these days with that much roof space and not consider solar. So we're definitely looking into the feasibility, what the specifics of it are. We'll have the capacity in the roof to take the panels, and so that's definitely part of our consideration for this. I don't know if we've got other, you know, water usage that.
What about parking spots? Do you have anything for electric?
We had not set that aside, but that is a smart suggestion that we would
Yeah,
happily
if we're
take.
going down in spaces, I'd like a concession to be that we put in some electric
Yeah.
charging units. I think that would be a fair trade-off. Just make sure that they're self-sustaining.
Meaning that we've got a power supply at.
Like, they're self-sustained, so they're not, like, there's zero impact to, like, there are two different types, my understanding, I'm not an expert, but I can definitely get you more information on that, but you can either go with a vendor, which may or may not be self-sustaining, or there's a different way of doing it that it actually is net zero.
Ah,
But
okay.
I can get you in touch with our,
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Okay. Thanks.
and then did you have more questions?
No, I'm
Was that
done, yeah.
enough?
No,
Go ahead.
And then I only had another question, because you said there might be light manufacturing. What would be the hours? Just because this now begins to kind of get closer to a neighborhood, and I just don't want it to be, like it's going, you know, they'll be impacted by whatever manufacturing's there, going there, it's loud, what have you. And especially with the COID, I think the setbacks are less, so I just want to make sure that.
You know, I have to say, I don't know what the hours of the tenants that we would consider would be, or maybe, let me put it this way, we certainly would be working during the day. Do tenants of this type have a second and a third shift? It is, you know, I'm familiar with the Ballard Vale area in North Andover, or in Andover, and there are some facilities there that do have second and third shifts. So I'd have to say, you know, from our planning and thinking right now, we're not ruling that out, if I was going to be completely truthful.
Okay.
Yeah, what is the approximate distance to the nearest residential? I believe it's off to the back. It's some
quite a
distance.
ways.
It's quite a ways, so I was wondering if you had a number.
This is embedded in industrial.
Yeah,
It's embedded in the middle of industrial.
yeah, it is in the middle.
Right, so in that, I don't think we see any residential.
Yeah.
I don't think you see it either.
I don't think you will.
McFarland's the closest road.
Yeah.
Yeah, McFarland, so like the bottom of
It's
McFarland.
possible that those,
Oh,
those there.
I'm sorry, we missed some of that. Was that you, Paul?
yeah, this is what they consider a butler building, and you're putting the mechanicals in the basement? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, we have a, part of the basement is set aside for mechanical air handling and so forth.
And I don't think they're conducive to putting solar arrays on a butler building.
Well, you know, we can put solar array on a flat roof, you can put it on a steeply pitched roof, and this is going to be a slightly pitched roof. From my point of view, there's not a constraint with the roof pitch. The structure needs to be designed properly so that you can accommodate the solar arrays themselves, and then the associated or snow drifting. But aside from that, I don't know why we wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a weight issue, that building. That type of building.
I'm sorry?
There would be a lot of thought that would have to be put into it. There's a weight issue with the roofs on that building.
Yeah, so, I mean, Butler Building is sort of a vernacular, we call them pre-engineered, right? And so they're, the engineering design is done by the fabricator who fabricates sort of a kit off-site and then comes onto the site and erects it. We're working with a company named Barnes down in the South Shore, and what they'll do is, I mean, they take the criteria that we give them for the structural capacity, and so we obviously want to make sure that we have the capacity in the roof for solar arrays, and so they'll design that in. It's not like we'd be picking a kit that comes with a pre-engineered roof that has one set of criteria that we can't select from.
Okay.
When I mentioned the solar array, it's not, I mean, since it's one complex, the owner could consider putting on the existing facility to compensate putting on the Butler building.
Yeah,
So that's
that's
all
a-
I was asking is for you to
Oh, I
consider
see.
looking at it. It doesn't have to go on this particular building.
Yeah.
But it can go anywhere on the campus.
That's right.
It
Well-
just wants you to consider, you're putting a big addition on, that it should be sustainable.
I appreciate that, and I actually think that the existing building and the new building are ripe for solar arrays. Yeah.
Good. All right. Any more? Deirdre? Nancy?
Yeah, I have one question, because it's a topic that came up lately. Environmental, solar arrays are great in terms of environmental mitigation. But one of the other things that we're seeing issues with is that we are losing our tree coverage. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this plan, and I'm going to ask you, could you find a way to put some more red maples in there?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because we actually have, let's see if we can find a view that shows the parking lot out front. This is from an earlier conversation, and what we're intending to do is improve the shrubs and add, fill in the shrubs along the front, add plantings up and through here, and then we do have other plantings that are shown around on the back too. So yeah, let's take a look at what the full program is that we're offering, and if you see places that we could sort of fill in more, we've got inertia in that direction, and it wouldn't take much to get that fully covered. So, sure.
Yeah, I mean, besides being good for the environment, it just becomes people-friendly.
Oh, when we're all in favor of that, yeah.
Yeah,
And it would put a smile on the face of the tree warden.
that's right.
Sent a long email the other week bemoaning the fact that we've been losing canopy.
Yeah, and that's a real thing. I mean, look, we're nice people and we care about trees like other people, but the truth is that it's a little barren now with the amount of asphalt and so forth. And so, look, in simple economic terms, it needs to look better. And the trees are a great way to do that. That's part of the calculus, honestly.
Okay.
Want to read letters? What do you
Yeah,
think?
why don't you
Sure.
run through those?
All right. Here we go. And we have a stack of them. All right, the first letter is from Fire Prevention Office. Dear members of the board, water supply, including the required pressure and flow, shall be confirmed by a current water flow test performed proximate to the site, with all calculations submitted to this department for review and approval. The developer shall add a hydrant within 60 feet of any proposed fire department sprinkler connection. The Chelmsford Fire Department requires a hydrant within 60 feet of the fire department connection and a hydrant within 500 feet or all points of the exterior of the building for manual firefighting operations. Hydrants and fire protection equipment shall be free from landscaping or vehicle obstructions, with clearance of 60 inches to the steamer connection and 36 inches to the rest of the hydrant. This department will require a cross-connected fire department connection to be installed at the rear of the building near the proposed loading dock area. Fire apparatus access is incomplete as of this point. The project team shall design fire department access using either an AASHTO Bus 45 or another turning template which is specific to the dimensions and performance characteristics of Chelmsford Fire Department Ladder 1. Fire apparatus access shall be designed by a registered engineer to withstand the weight of fire apparatus. Snow storage shall not obstruct or impede fire access roads or turnaround. All exits shall have sidewalks to allow a continuous path from the exit that lead to a public way. The dumpster location shown on this plan is adequate. An automatic sprinkler system conforming to NFPA 13 and a fire alarm system conforming to NFPA 72 shall be required. Fire alarm, fire sprinkler, and standpipe systems within the addition shall be integrated with the existing systems in the building. Fire alarm initiating and notification appliances should report to a single fire alarm panel. All fire systems shall be monitored by a UL-approved central station monitoring service, and all components and fire protection systems must comply with state building code and Chelmsford Fire Department requirements. All equipment related to fire safety shall be located at the discretion of the Chelmsford Fire Department. The applicant is advised that testing for emergency radio responder communications throughout the existing and proposed building areas, and if necessary, installation of a bidirectional amplifier system shall be required according to Chelmsford Fire Department ERRC regulations. Any fire alarm master box still installed at 250 Apollo Drive shall be removed prior to the start of construction. Due to the Chelmsford Fire Department's operational model for firefighter safety, a standpipe system conforming with NFPA 14 shall be installed throughout the building with no portion of the building more than 200 feet from a hose outlet. The applicant will be required to provide an interior stairway for rooftop access. The developer shall install a Knox box keyed to Chelmsford Fire Department standards at the rear of the addition at a location that is acceptable to the Fire Prevention Office. The applicant must apply to the Town of Chelmsford E911 Committee for address and unit numbering through its coordinator, Town Clerk Tricia Juris. This office requests that the developer resubmit a fire apparatus access plan before the Fire Prevention Office can make a definitive recommendation to the Planning Board. I respectfully request that the Board include this letter in their deliberations. Respectfully submitted, Danielle Kutsoufis, Fire Prevention Captain, Chelmsford Fire Department, Fire Prevention Office. The next letter is from the Department of Public Works. Dear members, this office has reviewed the set of plans, site development plans for 250 Apollo Drive dated October 3rd, 2022. As a result of this review, this office has the following comments. Sewer comments. No connection or increase to the Town of Chelmsford sewer infrastructure shall be more than 500 GPD. Stormwater comments. The project's stormwater management system shall comply with the Department of Environmental Protection's DEP stormwater management policy. All stormwater best management practices, BMPs, will be inspected by design engineers and certified that built-in compliance with plans. Documentation needed, including photos, field book entries, and engineers' daily reports to be submitted to DPW with final as-bills. Any proposed sedimentation control devices within the town's right-of-way must be maintained, inspected, cleaned, and replaced as necessary to prevent possible flooding issues during rain events. Once all work is done and approval is granted by the Town of Chelmsford DPW, any sedimentation control devices must be removed by the applicant as soon as possible. Town of Chelmsford stormwater management regulations for redevelopment sites shall design to meet an average annual pollutant removal equivalent to 80% of the average annual post-construction load of total suspended solids, TSS. standard not met. DPW requires installing BMPs that meet the pollutant removal percentages. Drainage comments. Ownership as well as O&M of all stormwater systems and BMPs should be clearly stated on the plans to avoid confusion in the future regarding responsibility of the stormwater management facility. Infiltration field dimensions, make and model, and number of units should be stated on the plans. General comments. As-built plans should be submitted on PDF, AutoCAD, and paper, no larger than 24 by 36, a D-size print, upon completion of the project. All existing and/or proposed utilities should be clearly and accurately labeled. Size, material, existing proposed, rim, invert, etc., on the drawing, reflecting the most updated utility connections and sizing. A trench permit and a land disturbance permit will be required from DPW prior to start of any constructions. During construction, care should be given to maintain separation of at least 10 feet horizontally from the edge of sewer services to the edge of water services. Where a horizontal separation of 10 feet is not practical, both services can be installed closer to each other, but the water service must be 18 inches higher than the sewer service per DEP standards. See Massachusetts Water Laws, Chapter 9, Section 9.8. Provisions for an enclosed dumpster pad and dumpster should be depicted upon the plan sets. The long-term and perpetual care of the dumpster, including the emptying and the enclosure, will be the responsibility of the property owner. Applicant must schedule pre-construction meeting with the DPW Engineering Division prior to the start of work. If you have any questions, please contact this office at 978-250-5228. Sincerely, Anthony Rapucci, P.E., Town Engineer, Town of Chelmsford, DPW. The next letter is from the Board of Health. Dear Planning Board members, this letter is regarding the proposed development at 250 Apollo Drive. The proposed development is in the Zone 2 Groundwater Protection Zone. This development, which would require an on-site septic system, must meet the following Board of Health regulation. General Provisions, Chapter 201, Board of Health, Article 7, Groundwater Protection Zone. Please see the attached regulation. Sincerely, Susan Rosa, RN, CHO, Public Health Director. I'm not reading the regulations. You can reference those. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. The next letter is from good question. Who's it from? Board of Health. Request for departmental review, Chelmsford Planning Board.
Wasn't that just Board of Health you just read?
Yeah, that was Board of Health. This is just the cover letter for the Board of Health. Just says, see the attached letter. Unfortunately, it was on the bottom instead of the top. Okay. The next one is Chelmsford Water District. The Chelmsford Water District has reviewed the proposed development and provides the following review comments. The proposed development is located in the Zone 2 of the River Neck well field. The groundwater hydraulic gradient is shallow in this area, and well pumping can affect the groundwater flow direction, potentially drawing treated septic water toward the wells. The district has serious concerns about the proposed septic system for this building expansion, and to a lesser extent, the stormwater system. The district would require the following steps or alternatives be considered before approving the plans as provided. 1. the district would request a tight tank be used to contain septic flows instead of on-site septic disposal. Should this alternative prove to be unacceptable, the following alternatives could be considered. A, advanced wastewater treatment to provide drinking water quality water to be discharged back to the groundwater table, or B, developing a calibrated groundwater model that would validate the direction of groundwater flow during peak well pumping conditions by the district. This model can be developed by AECOM of Chelmsford, Massachusetts, Callahan Consulting of Acton, Mass., or Bristol Engineering Associates of Mattapoisett, Massachusetts. As part of this study, a detailed breakdown of the anticipated wastewater characteristics shall be provided. The goal of this report would be confirming that the waste flow will not impact the district well water quality. Should the report demonstrate that the wells will be impacted by the wastewater discharge or provide no definitive solution, the district would require a tight tank or advanced wastewater treatment as presented above. 2, the stormwater does not appear to provide any treatment prior to discharge to the groundwater. Also, at this point in time, it is not clear what type of deliveries may be provided to the building. The district would require the stormwater system to A, provide treatment to remove oil, gas, or similar compounds that are associated with vehicle traffic. B, remove sand, turbidity, and similar fines. C, provide secondary containment should a spill occur on site. 3, lastly, the district would require monitoring wells as recommended by the hydrogeologic study, minimum of 2 wells, to be installed on-site, and an annual monitoring plan be provided to the district for approval, as well as annual monitoring report provided to the district. The plan shall also provide steps taken during a spill event. If you have any questions, please let me know. Best regards, Andrew Reed, Water Superintendent. That's the cover letter for that one. And let's see. The next one is from the building commissioner. Dear Coleman, to Alan Coleman, Gables Properties Management. Dear Coleman, please be advised that for the proposed addition construction project at the above regarded, this project needs to meet all dimensional requirements as per established zoning bylaws. Also, all building code, accessibility code, energy code, and safety code, and the Massachusetts amendments to the most current additions. If you have any questions or comments, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you. Respectfully, Jose Negron, CBO, BSCM, Building Commissioner. That's the cover letter for Building Department.
That should be
And
it.
we're back to the beginning. That's all.
Very good.
So somehow I missed the fire department one.
Get it over to you.
I had the apparatus information, but I didn't have that, so yeah, if you
Get
could,
it
that'd be
over
great.
to
Yep, we'll address it, we'll take care of it.
Okay.
So how long do you think you need to submit a revision?
I think realistically, I'd need 2 weeks to be able to submit back to you.
Okay, so February 8th.
Will
All
that
right.
get us, will that be in time to get updates on the department reviews?
If we get revised plans, no later than the next 2 weeks,
Yep.
February 8th should work.
Okay.
And
that's
if
good.
I can, I'll let you know as soon as I can, but I should be able to do that.
I have a question.
All right.
So, all the reports mention a septic system. Did you guys say you're connecting to the
Yeah.
sewer? So,
So the original plan, the plan that we submitted originally had a septic system based on some conversations we had, but became pretty clear with all the letters and talking to
Okay.
department heads that that was a no-go, yeah. So when we come back, it will be tying into the sewer, and we'll work with the DPW to figure out how to offset the increase that we're gonna add to it.
To offset the difference between the 500 allowed and what you're actually going to utilize, is that right?
I'm not 100% sure. Seems like there's a lot of moving parts to it, so we've got to present them with what we believe our impact will be. So that's step one. Then they would verify what we say, and then we'd I guess, come to an amount and then figure out how to offset that.
Okay.
The challenge with Title V is that it's probably twice.
Really conservative.
Yeah, it's super
Yeah.
conservative, and then so when that is like dollars and cents, then we're gonna, because we look back at 20 years of water usage for the existing building, and they were about 15% of what Title V would indicate that they would be. So,
15%?
yeah, 15%, yeah, and that just shows you how,
Wow.
and part of that is Title V being excessive, and another part of that is the building was equipped with really high-quality, low-flow fixtures.
Yeah.
So between the two, so we're gonna go, I plan on going back and forth a little bit, like at least making our case, and then we'll see where
Okay,
it comes out.
good. So, let's see. We got the fire truck stuff, which I think you probably addressed.
Yep.
We have the parking, which we've discussed, which is, we'll probably discuss after the rest of the stuff is sorted out. We got all the complexity of sewer, groundwater, and monitoring. So we'll need get a proposal kind of firmed up there. And then there was some stormwater. There was a stormwater question in there
Yes, yep.
that you would address as well. Are there any other major topics that would need to get covered? I think those are the big ones.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, probably our best bet. First of all, let me take a look at this. This is a public hearing, I believe. So, although obviously there's a lot to be done here, if there are any initial comments that people would like to make as part of the public hearing, now wouldn't be a bad time to do it. I don't think we're going to get into deep detail until we get to
Get new drawings.
get to February, you get new drawings.
Yeah.
So, anybody? I want to see if there's anybody in the public that wants to deal with to say anything in public hearing? You don't see anything? All right.
Okay.
In that case,
I would move to continue the public hearing on 250 Apollo Drive until February 8th?
Is that enough
February.
time?
February
they've
what?
said so.
Evan, the 8th?
8th, yes.
February 8th.
A motion? Second by Mike? In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you.
7, okay, we'll see you in a month.
Doug's here.
Okay. Now that takes care of 250 Apollo Drive. The next one up is also a new public hearing. This is 264 Groton Road. Do we have a notice to read here?
You already read it.
Oh, it's like covered both of them?
No, you read it.
Oh, I just read it.
You read it
Oh, I
earlier.
guess we did, we did.
Then we
Okay.
tabled it.
And then we
Yeah, and then we
tabled
tabled it. Okay, so we're untabling it.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening and Happy New Year.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you since last year.
Yeah.
And I apologize for my tardiness. In any event, thank you for your patience. Douglas DeShane from Finneran and Nicholson, representing the applicant this evening. Also with me, Matt Waterman from Land Tech Consultants, Inc. We are here this evening seeking approval of a two-lot subdivision on a 1.81 acre lot, which is located at 264 Groton Road. We are proposing to create two lots, and then we would be developing a duplex building on each of the two lots, as duplexes are allowed within the applicable zoning district. There is currently an existing house on the property that is proposed to be raised. And as such, one of the two new buildings will utilize the existing sewer connection that is on the lot. However, due to the sewer moratorium, we will have to provide a separate Title V system for the second structure. And we have submitted that to the Board of Health for review, and we have received comments from them. As I said, there'll be two duplexes. Each unit is provided 4 parking spots per unit, 2 within the garage structure and 2 outside, so we are far exceeding the required parking. As I said, we have received comment letters from most, if not all, of the commenting department heads or departments, including town engineer. We are happy to say there were no significant issues raised in any of those letters, although I will let Mr. Waterman go over the comments from the town engineer. I think there was one question we had, but other than that, very clean comment letters. It is a relatively simple subdivision, being 2 lots and pretty much meeting all the regulations. We are seeking 4 waivers, and again, Mr. Waterman can touch on those. So with that, I would like to let Mr. Waterman give you a quick engineering overview of the proposed project, and then we'll be happy to answer any question any of the board members have.
Thank you, Doug. Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants for the record. Doug went through most of the existing conditions and the proposed development. If I repeat anything, I apologize, but the project is located on the south side of Groton Road near the Chelmsford line on Route 40, Groton Road. It is 1.81 acres. As Doug said, it's going to be subdivided into 2 residential lots, where currently it's an existing single lot. The road is designed as a 40-foot private way. It'll be constructed with 22 feet of pavement. The right-of-way will be 40 feet wide. And then we'll be constructing a small T turnaround at the end of the road. It's about 300 feet long. We do have a formal drainage system, catch basin and manholes, which will drain into an adjacent infiltration system. It's designed in accordance with the local and state stormwater management regulations, in accordance for the 100-year storm event. It does include a detailed operation and maintenance manual that we would expect that would be taken over by future homeowners association, where this is to be maintained as a public or a private way, excuse me. Utilities, there's on-site utilities available on Groton Road, including natural gas, town water, and then as Doug specified, a combination of septic and sewer. Grading for the public way, for the private way is relatively shallow. It ranges anywhere from a 1.5% grade to as much as, I think, about a 4% grade. So it's a gradual incline as you go into the site, and it drains all towards Groton Road. The groundwater would be captured with catch basins down by Groton Road, capturing as much of the runoff from the driveway and the roadway as possible. Traffic, we have stopping site distance equal to or greater than 350 feet in both directions from the access point onto Groton Road. Speed limit there is 35 miles an hour. The 350 feet equates to a speed limit of actually a stopping site for up to 44 miles per hour. So we feel that the stopping site distance is more than adequate. The trip generation for 4 units for a multifamily is similar to a single family, but with slightly different numbers. The 4 units, we would average about 30 cars per day, or a peak PM hour of 3 vehicles per hour. Obviously, there's an existing single-family home there, which currently averages 10 vehicles per day, 1 PM peak. So the increase would be about 20 vehicles per day, or 1 peak hour PM. Traffic counts along Route 40 are fairly recent. They're at the town line. It averages about 14,000 cars per day, and we don't think that this would impact that. Waivers, we do request 4 waivers just for construction requirements to help minimize impacts with the development. We're requesting that the cul-de-sac, the right-of-way bulb be reduced in size from the town standards of 62.5 feet down to 50 feet, just to help squeeze some of the areas up front and maintain some of those vegetation towards the rear of the lot. Eliminate the sidewalks just due to the size and scale of the project and the roadway and traffic. It's not anticipated that sidewalks would be required or needed. And then to construct a T turnaround instead of a full circular turnaround. We did provide, and I know that's one of the comments in the fire department, but we did do and designed it for the town's fire truck, the WB bus fire truck, and we can certainly provide that to the fire department. One additional waiver, and the last one, was to require, instead of sloped vertical or sloped granite curbing, to do bituminous concrete curb or Cape Cod berm. And that's simply just, again, due to the size and scale of the project. The Cape Cod berm provides the same level of what the sloped granite curb provides in maintaining drain lines and drainage patterns. The comment letters, I know you'll probably read them into the record. We can certainly address them. The DPW did have a couple comments, including adding shutoffs and valves for either the water and or the sewer, adding a hydrant. We can certainly address all of those comments. The Center Water District did address some concerns about the septic system and the impacts to the Crooked Spring wells. We will certainly work with them to address those concerns. The site is not located in the Zone 2 or within the watershed for the Crooked Spring well. So we can certainly hopefully address that. And then beyond that, for the nitrogen loading concerns, which is the one kind of nitrogen impacts to public water supply wells or private water supply wells for that matter, that is something that Title V regulates. For this facility, the lot as a whole for 4 bedrooms, this could support up to 7 bedrooms for a septic system, and we're only providing 4. Obviously, 4 of the units are going to sewer, so I'm not sure what the concerns are with the impacts to the well, but we can certainly address that. Happy to answer any questions. Obviously, Doug is here as well, and thank you.
All right. Let's see. Well, shall we start running it around the board and see if there are any concerns or questions? I would make a couple. Evan, do you recall what the configuration is of the development that's down just 1 or 2 from this? It's fairly new. Yeah, I think there are 7, 8, 10 houses down there?
There's 12.
12, okay.
Full sidewalks.
Yeah, they got the
granite curbs,
sidewalks and they have the curbs.
And cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
The one that we
Yeah.
talked about this
Jackson
evening?
Road.
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
Jackson
that is
Road.
intended to be a public way with a
Okay.
pending or future town meeting acceptance, which is why it has sidewalks, granite curbing, trees.
Well, I'm thinking, my thinking is that we might want to see some degree of consistency of the nature of the development.
Construction standards.
Yeah, the same, I'd
And that strip.
kind of like to see the same construction standards here as we do, 2 doors down. Which I think brings us to sidewalks and granite, but that's an initial thought on my part.
Is this considered a rear lot?
No, it's
No?
a subdivision.
Okay.
What's the fire department take on the termination of the road coming in? I mean, I know traditionally we do a cul-de-sac, but, and this shows a T. What did they say?
You want to read the letters?
Yeah, why don't we do the letter?
All right. All right, let's go. Chelmsford Water District. Dear Mr. Belansky, the Chelmsford Water District notes that the proposed septic system may drain to the wells feeding the Crooked Spring Water Treatment Plant. See figure number 1. Per the Town of Chelmsford General Provisions, Chapter 201, Board of Health, Article 7, Groundwater Protection Zone, the Chelmsford Water District requests developing a calibrated groundwater model that would validate the direction of groundwater flow during peak well pumping conditions by the district. As part of this study, a detailed breakdown of the anticipated wastewater characteristics should be provided. The goal of this report would be confirming that the waste flow will not impact the district well water quality. Should the report demonstrate that the wells will be impacted by the wastewater discharge or provide no definitive solution, the district would request a tight tank or advanced wastewater treatment. Best regards, Andrew Reed, Water Superintendent. Next letter is from the Board of Health. Planning Board, this letter is regarding the proposed definitive subdivision at 264 Groton Road. This subdivision, which would require an on-site septic system, must meet Title V regulations pursuant to 310 CMR 15.00 septic systems, along with the Health Department's application process. In addition, prior to the demolition of the existing dwelling at 264 Groton Road, the Health Department will need to receive an asbestos abatement report and a pest control report. Once both reports are reviewed and accepted, the Health Department will approve the demolition of this building. Respectfully, Donna Greenwood, Assistant Public Health Director, Chelmsford Board of Health. Next letter is from North Chelmsford Water District. Dear board members, the North Chelmsford Water District has reviewed the applicant's proposal to construct 2 duplexes for a total of 4 multifamily units off of 264 Groton Road. The North Chelmsford Water District will supply water with the full understanding that the applicant shall follow the rules and regulations of the North Chelmsford Water District and the Chelmsford Fire Department's requirements and agree to the following conditions. 1. All multifamily units will have straight lineal sleeved 1-inch water services for each unit, separately metered with the R900 radio read water meters. 2. Each unit will be charged an entrance fee of $5,000 at the single family more than 1 unit rate, 4 in total. 3. The new 6-inch ductile iron water main will be tied into Groton Road. The water main will cross Groton Road into the complex and service a fire hydrant per Chelmsford Fire Department and 4 individual services. The applicant shall install a 6-inch tapping sleeve and gate valve on the existing water. The applicant shall pay all costs. 4. The NCWD, North Chelmsford Water District, will make sure that the applicants follow all details that will be submitted on the drawings, proper depth of pipe, proper bedding and backfill materials, thrust blocks, etc. 5. All materials, inspections, overhead, entrance fees, tapping of domestic water service, etc. will be coordinated through the North Chelmsford Water District. 6. The old water service to 264 Groton Road shall be terminated at the water main, and the water services must be tapped into a new 6-inch water main after it is tested, chlorinated, flushed, and a negative water sample for bacteria. Paul Pyers, Superintendent. Next letter is from the Department of Public Works. Dear members, this office has reviewed the set of plans, definitive subdivision Newport Landings, dated October 24th, 2022. As a result of this review, this office has the following comments. Sewer comments. Required actions. Check valves must be installed after each grinder pump for Lot 2 prior to the lines connecting. A check valve must be installed in the 2-inch force main at the edge of the town's row. Backup power must be supplied to the grinder pumps and shown on the as-built. Existing sewer must be properly disconnected by a licensed utility contractor and permits pulled from DPW. Easement must be created for Lot 2 through Lot 1 for sewer force main /UGE, or see alternative comments 1 below. No increase to the town of Chelmsford sewer infrastructure shall be more than 500 gallons per day. The applicant should analyze sewage flow using Title V in proposed conditions to determine required sewer allocation. This should be submitted to DPW for approval for existing sewer connections. If there is a change in use or expansion, the applicant should submit necessary floor plans and seating plans to supplement the sewer allocation calculations. Stormwater comments. Required actions. All stormwater BMPs will be inspected by design engineers and certified that built in compliance with plans. Also, documentation needed, including photos, field book entries, and engineers' daily reports, to be submitted to DPW with final as-built. Ownership as well as O&M of all stormwater systems and BMPs should be clearly stated on the plans to avoid confusion in the future regarding responsibility of the stormwater management facility. The deeds or a covenant should clearly specify the homeowners or association or property owner whom shall be responsible for owning the system, as well as inspection and maintenance schedules. General comments. Required actions. Applicant must schedule pre-construction meeting with the DPW Engineering Division prior to the start of work. Work will require a licensed utility contractor to obtain sewer, trench, road opening permits through DPW. All utility work will be inspected by town personnel. This requires 48-hour notice of work. As-built plans should be submitted on Mylar, paper, PDF, no larger than 24 by 36, a D-size print, upon completion of the project. DPW can and will provide as-built standards. Stone bounds for all subdivisions should be depicted on the plans. During construction, care should be taken to maintain separation of at least 10 feet horizontally from the edge of sewer services to the edge of water services. Where a horizontal separation of 10 feet is not practical, both services can be installed closer to each other, but the water service must be 18 inches higher than the sewer service, per DEP standards. See Massachusetts Water Laws, Chapter 9, Section 9.8. Alternative comments. 1. DPW recommends that all utilities to Lot 2 be placed in the roadway, private road, for maintenance in the future. 2. If the intention of the subdivision is to become a public roadway, granite curbing will be required as well as a sidewalk on one side of the street. Anthony Rapucci. And the last letter is from the Fire Prevention Office, Chelmsford Fire Department. Dear members of the board, the Fire Prevention Office offers the following comments regarding the proposal for subdivision and private way construction at 264 Groton Road. There are no fire hydrants indicated on the plan. The closest fire hydrant is located on the opposite side of Groton Road from this proposed private way. This office requires a hydrant within 500 feet of all structures. The developer shall install a fire hydrant in conjunction with North Chelmsford Water District on the property in a location that is acceptable to the Fire Prevention Office. This office noted that no fire apparatus access and turning plan was submitted with this application. This office is unable to assess the adequacy of fire apparatus access at this time. The development team shall submit a fire apparatus access plan that shows an AASHTO Bus 45 vehicle is able to access the site and turn around. The applicant shall contact the office of the fire chief and submit 3 possible names for the proposed roadway. Once a street name is established, the applicant must apply to the Town of Chelmsford E911 Committee for house addresses through its coordinator, Town Clerk Trish Zuris. Upon receipt of acceptable updated plans that include a hydrant and adequate apparatus access turnaround, the Fire Prevention Office can provide further comments and/or endorsement of this proposal. Respectfully submitted, Danielle Kotsufis, Captain, Chelmsford Fire Department, Fire Prevention Office.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, it's a fairly substantial list of things to look at. Any comments for the board? Now, this is going to be a public hearing. Obviously, we're going to go to another night on this, but we'll at least get the public hearing started, if anybody wants to make an immediate comment. But anybody on the board have additional questions? What I have on my list right now is the questions concerning the cul-de-sac and the termination of the road, sidewalk, granite curb, wastewater flow settings, and whether it's actually necessary. It wasn't completely clear to me what was really going to be required here, because I don't think we're that close to the wells, but that needs to be worked out, and the stormwater.
Yeah, basically, they have work to do with coming up.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Just a couple of things. I probably wouldn't be inclined to vote for the waivers. Even the plans.
You just went quiet, Tim.
Your mute button, Tim.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You were breaking up.
You broke up, Tim.
All right. I'm just. I wouldn't be inclined to vote for the waivers on this because I'm just not. I'm not liking the plan. So that's where I stand with that for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, there'll be more conversation on that, I'm sure. Paul, anything from you?
I have the same feeling as Tim at this point.
Okay. And Erica? Okay.
I have a couple questions.
Uh-huh.
I just have a couple of questions on
Yes.
the drawings.
Sure, go ahead.
What is the setback, and I don't know this and I couldn't find it, the area of right-of-way goes right up to the property line of the 258 Groton Road, right to the property line, the 40 feet right-of-way that you mentioned, you got the roadway, the 22 feet, which is like a driveway, it's not a road, but now you got the area of right-of-way goes right up to 258 the property line. What is the town setback of right-of-ways to a butter's property line?
I don't think there is one.
There is one.
Yeah.
So so if we have to widen that driveway, that roadway at a later date, it can go right up to the property line of an abutter?
Yes, I mean, it's a private way, it's no different than a private driveway. And any of you
Okay.
could expand your driveway right to your butter's lot
Okay.
line if you wanted to.
Yeah, you have to have a setback, don't you?
Not for a
So there's no
driveway.
setback, but I was just asking, because couldn't find it on that thing.
For a
And then
building, yeah.
What is the
not for a
proposed
driveway.
number of stories, Doug,
Thank you.
on this?
I believe it's just a standard 2.5 stories. I don't think, and we're still working with the applicant to develop building plans. We do have footprints shown, but I think the intent is to do 2.5 story and not the 3-story like you see on Jackson Street.
Okay.
I think the intent is to build more.
Build it a little
Why we
lower.
have slightly larger footprint was
Yeah.
to accommodate kind of a more 2.5-story, single-family home, even though they are duplexes, but it'll have the look of a single-family.
Okay,
But we don't
gotcha.
have final plans.
All right, now understood. So you're going to be back before us in any event, so clearly. Anything else from the board before I open it up? Would you like to say something? Okay.
I had another question.
Oh, you did? Go ahead.
Is there a plan to make this a public way eventually, or?
No.
Okay.
All right, so we'll have to.
Is there a plan to have an owners association that will then become responsible for the roadway and such?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we need to see the draft of that as well, that agreement, as well as part of this application.
And to remind the board, we have, as for private ways, we have standard
Yes.
forms
Yeah.
for the shared driveway,
Right.
private driveway covenant.
So is the shared driveway the same as a private street?
Essentially.
Essentially, but legally, it's a private way,
Yeah.
but
What's the
within-
difference?
shared driveways are not a creature of subdivision, they're a creature of zoning. This is being proposed under subdivision, so
Right.
the covenant is a private way / shared driveway.
Yeah. Okay.
Basically, to be a shared driveway, you'd have to have a rear lot qualification in the back, which means it would have to be a lot bigger than it is.
Yeah.
This is a subdivision. But that agreement also has to address the drains and the
Yeah.
utilities coming through there and whatnot, as listed in the department letters.
Okay.
So I'm a little confused logistically. If one building is tapping into, is retaining their sewer connection, so 2 units, and the other 2 units are gonna have a septic system, the neighborhood association that's responsible for the maintenance of the septic system is only gonna be for the 2 units that are using it? Okay.
All right.
Now, I'm not seeing anything on here that shows septic location and plan.
I think it's right here.
It's right down the front.
Oh, okay, all right.
There it is, yeah.
Ah,
I got one.
really?
Old school.
It's right-
We did do testing on the front
Oh, I'm
lot.
sorry.
Okay,
We did check the
That's
soil
infiltration.
maps, and there was a soil change between the front part of the development to the rear, so we tested the front lot and found suitable testing. We did it under the purview of the Board of Health.
Okay.
We do have an area.
Yeah, there's a underlying ridge that comes up through there, as I recall. I've stumbled over some of its granite. Okay, this is a public hearing. I'll take some limited public testimony. We will be continuing this public hearing, so there will be additional opportunities to address things that develop in our next meeting, and obviously, the proponent has a lot of homework. So, anybody choose at this time to speak, realizing you'll have another shot at the next meeting? Here we go. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Hall, and I reside at 34 Levitt Lane. Poor Route 40. Land developers are at it again, seeking exemptions from zoning rules to maximize their profit at the expense of current residents. Mr. Richard D. Felice, owner of Newport Materials, seeks permission from the planning board to subdivide current lot at 264 Groton Road, which now has a single-family home. He seeks an exemption from the RC zone bylaw dimensional requirements of 125 feet of frontage along Route 40 to create a private roadway with 2 large duplexes on land with only 113.8 feet of frontage. Zoning laws are created to protect the quality of life and character of the town. If the town continues to grant exceptions to rules, why bother to have any at all? People should have a reasonable expectation as to what can be built in their neighborhood. Now, by some convoluted logic, this development is justified because the neighborhood is already congested and noisy. What difference would an additional road with 2 more duplexes make? I should think a great deal of difference to the abutters. Would you want a street to suddenly appear 20 feet off your property line next to your bedroom window? Mr. D. Felice seeks a favor from the town so he can maximize his profit. The granting of this favor will reduce the quiet enjoyment of the homes of the abutters and create more congestion, noise, and traffic on Route 40. Didn't his agreement with the town of Westford to direct all traffic from his asphalt plant into the town of Chelmsford along Route 40 create enough problems for the town? Truck traffic from Mr. D. Felice's businesses has severely affected the quality of life for residents of North Chelmsford, not only along Route 40, but also Ledge Road, Swan Road, and Main Street. I'm further concerned that the extra units will be serviced by septic tanks. Didn't the town spend millions of dollars on a sewer system to improve the health of its residents? Why are we permitting developers to drag us backwards? Mr. DeFelice is represented in this petition by Mr. Douglas DeShane, the lawyer who championed Christopher Cox's 2018 plan to rezone Route 40 interchange and completely alter the neighborhood into strip malls, office parks, and large residential buildings with hundreds of units. I'll get to the point. That rezoning scheme, developed without the planning board input, was strongly opposed at public hearings. People don't want more development up there. Subsequently, the partners of this scheme had a falling out, which led to the current townhouse developments.
You're beginning to drift a little far afield here. Could you keep your comments to the particular subdivision plan?
These buildings seem much higher than anyone expected, but I'm happy to hear that they're only going to be not the height that we see at the interchange. Thank you. I hope the town would not grant any favors to anyone who would add to its problems while reducing the quality of life for its covenant residents. I urge the planning board members to reject this subdivision, preserve the integrity and predictability of our zoning laws, and protect the quality of life for the residents of the town of Chelmsford. Thank you for your consideration.
I see. Well, I might suggest you might want to spend a little time and read our zoning, our subdivision bylaw and see what's actually in there.
Am I wrong on the 125 feet?
Yeah, actually, technically you are, because their frontage is on the new road. The frontage for these properties is on that new road that they're putting in.
Yep. Problem there.
They don't have frontage on Groton Road.
Yeah. I know, Attorney DeShane, would you care to make any response? Well, we'll have plenty of time. This is obviously.
I'd like to make a response, but I think at this time, we'd prefer to go back, do our homework, get your questions, and then I'm happy to address personal character.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that wasn't an attack on your personal character. It's just saying that project was
That's my
opposed
response.
by so
All
many
right.
people. I apologize.
Well, we'll be revisiting this anyway, and everybody will have a chance to continue the conversation. Go ahead.
One comment to add. We will consider and review the waivers. Obviously, there's some concern with the waivers. I think it's just important, the waivers were to help minimize the impacts to the neighborhoods. It was to reduce the amount of clearing. It wasn't any other reason. It was, it was the engineering. We came up with these waiver lists, and we came up with these based to try and do low-impact design and to come up with a method that was a better product than.
Yeah, understood. And there are pros and cons to all of these things that have to be considered. It's not simple.
I would like to add, too, that another consideration for the waivers is that we are proposing a private road. If we're forced to build the road to full town standards, 2 sidewalks, a big bulb, then in all likelihood, we would seek it to become a public road for the town to maintain. So, by building a private road, reducing some of these standards, I mean, 2 sidewalks for two structures, on a 300-foot road that essentially goes to nowhere. There are no sidewalks on Groton Road. But again, we will look at that to see if we can minimize the need for that. But unfortunately, I know the board understands that if we are forced to do full construction standards, it would likely therefore become a public way. It would save us a lot of trouble and time and expense, and unfortunately, transfer that expense to the town. So, we're trying to do it in a manner that is least impactful on the neighborhood and the town as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Oh, I see 2.
Okay. I'll try to make this quick.
Yeah, and then we'll finish it up with Pam, and then I think, another one, and then we'll continue.
Scott Rummel, 24 Levitt Lane. I live in close proximity to one of the abutters. And Evan, could you go to the existing plot picture? When I look at this existing, I'm looking at the tree coverage, because when I read the supplemental data report, it described this tree coverage area as a small woodland. And I'm kind of confused why it's described as a small woodland, because the tree line here and the tree line here is essentially larger than Lot 2 as proposed. So what they're going to do, if you flip to the proposal, is to clear all that and leave, what's this, maybe 25, 30 feet here with 25, 30 feet to the proposed structure, which hasn't been defined yet, which means somebody's backyard is, you know, from here to the corner with a tree line or a woodland area of 25 to 30 feet beyond that, which is going to preserve the wildlife pathways that we have there today. I just don't think that's quite right. It gets into kind of the quality of life and the kind of community that we want. And that's just the proposal. We don't know what the as-bilt's going to be. We don't know the size of the footprint. We don't really understand what potential future homeowners could do to clear that. And then what that does is kind of open up the visibility of these buildings to the abutters in Lovett Lane and the other side street right there, Burton Lane. So I'm concerned about that because those are RB, big lots. These are described as 2,400 to 2,800 square feet units, which I assume for that size, which are described as moderately priced. I don't know, my house is not 2,400 square feet, and my house wasn't certainly moderately priced. So we're squeezing a lot of new character into an existing neighborhood. It's right in between two single-family homes, two single-family lots. It's not preserving the character of the neighborhood. It'd be different if it was the lot abutting Jackson Road, but it's not. It's in the middle of the neighborhood. The borders to the abutters on the east and west of this are having significant coverage of the woodlands removed to make room in this lot. And I imagine the abutters are pretty not happy as well. Again, it's kind of the quality of life. That's a good-sized lot. Lots of tree coverage, lots of, improvement to the community, the canopy. I don't see how the plan as submitted with the waivers requested is something that actually benefits the town, benefits the character, and benefits the neighbors. I don't know if I'm missing something, but if anybody can point out how that improves our character of that neighborhood, I'm all ears. I don't know. I could go on, but I'll just leave it at that, and we're going to talk more about it. But I would request that the planning board give due consideration. My personal opinion is requested you to disapprove all the waivers and come up with a plan that has kind of less impact on the lot, less impact to the abutters. And the fire apparatus turnaround is another big waiver that I'm concerned about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Hi, Pam Armstrong, C6 Scotty Hollow. I'm not going to actually say that I'm in favor or against the plan. I'm just going to make a couple recommendations. I think that they should maybe show us a good landscape plan, what they're clearing, what they're leaving, what they're proposing to add to buffer the neighbors. I think that would answer some questions. And if they are having a homeowners association, can it limit things like tree houses, trampolines, swimming pools, because the backyards aren't that big? Are there going to be some guidelines as to what's going to be allowed in that small amount of backyard that's going to abut neighbors or their existing neighbor next door? So I think those things should be taken into consideration as well.
Okay. Thank you, Pam.
Good evening. My name's Virginia Crocker Timmons. I'm here tonight as a Precinct 3 rep and as a major abutter, direct abutter to this property. And my husband, Mark, and I live at 28 Lovett Lane. When you look at 246 Groton Road, what is currently the rear property line is 200 feet. And I share that property line with that property. My rear property line is greater than 200 feet, so that's a subset of my rear property line. When I noticed that the property sold, I asked a mutual acquaintance to set up a meeting with me and Mr. DeFelice, and he was kind enough to promptly accommodate that meeting and tell me verbally what he wanted to do. And at that time, absent seeing any plans, my two biggest concerns were elimination of trees and building size and height. After seeing the surveyor on my property line in October, I reached back out to Mr. DeFelice and asked about the previous offer to meet to review the plans and sent some dates, and nothing happened with that. And so I just want you to know that the first time I have seen these plans is receiving them through the town. And I have several points I'd like to cover. If I may, I'd like to just pass out a visual aid as I go through my talking points.
Go ahead.
And do we have copies for the proponents?
I do not.
Okay, well, we'll get them one of these.
Sure, there's an extra one. There's an extra one.
Thank you. I'll return to you.
So, with respect to having seen the subdivision itself, I don't feel that it fits, and I don't feel that it's appropriate for the lot. So the required frontage for duplexes is 125 feet. I understand the frontage along Groton Road is 113.58, and that is why they are trying to build the private road to create the frontage. If you look at page 1 on the handout, the plans on page 5 say that the depth of lot 1 is 132 feet. I admit I have no knowledge of legally how depth is measured, but when I look at page 2, which is the only place where I could see a depth measurement for lot 1, it adds up only to 100.5. And so our assumption is that going out to that ridge there's some maximum way to measure 132 feet. And so my question for the planning board is, what constitutes the required depth in the spirit of the bylaw? And if most of the depth measurements are less than that, do you still get credit for the depth if one measurement fits? So that's something I would really like the planning board to look at. Second, if the applicant complies with the fire vehicle turnaround and the sidewalk requirements, that means more pavement. If they don't comply and are granted the waiver, to me, that's a safety compromise, not worth the compromise. And with that under consideration, and third, I think that the list of waivers basically implies that that lot is too narrow. And it has limited buildable area due to the electrical easement. And it just seems that the configuration of the lot doesn't meet the fundamental requirements and aesthetics of a subdivision. Fourth, if that roadway is essentially a private driveway, again, I don't have the knowledge, but does a private driveway constitute frontage? Or does it actually need to be a roadway to constitute the required frontage? So that is a question I put out there. And last, I think the aesthetics of the lot are detracting. The one of the home closest to Groton Road is going to be facing sideways. All the other homes in that residential area face frontwards to Groton Road. We have subdivisions in town. There's one on Main Street across the street from School Street where the lot was subdivided and the home went in with the side of the house facing the main street when all the other houses face frontwards. And it just is it's aesthetically displeasing. It goes back to some of the quality of life things. On page 2 of the handout, there's the existing house, which is connected to the town sewer. And on page 5 of the plans, they propose putting Lot 1 on septic and Lot 2 on sewer. And again, not having the technical expertise, I would just ask the planning board to verify why it's being done that way. I heard the comments about the soil testing, but it seems funny to me because the existing house is really closer to the proposed Lot 1. So why are they not connecting Lot 1 to the sewer? One thing I am concerned about is it because there's too much ledge and rock on the back part of the lot? And that brings me to concerns about noise and vibration under construction. Just as an example, I put on page 3 of the handout, just yesterday there was a blasting notice for 520 Groton Road, and you can see where that is in relative to where this development is proposed. Our house is shook. The foundation shook. I had something that was on the shelf in my office that actually fell off because of the ledge, whatever the blast was for. So I'm concerned about what's underneath the soil there, and what are we up against. There were tremendous boulders and rocks that came out of the ground at the Jackson Road development, and I suspect this is going to be no different, even based on work that I've done on my own home. On page 5, what I've done is I've pulled from the GIS system the satellite view with showing the foliage at 264 Groton Road. So the blue line that you see closest to the bottom of the page is the shared property line that we have. The dark area above that is the electrical easement for National Grid. And you can see that between my lot and the 264 Groton Road lot, it's a fairly heavily wooded area. We see deer, fox, coyotes. I've had turtles laying eggs in my yard. On page 5, what you see is 3 out of a herd of 4 deer that were in my yard just 2.5 weeks ago. And so my concern is that, similar to what Mr. Rummel brought up, is that clearing what's now a small forest and replacing it with 8 maples, I don't know if that should be acceptable. The next thing I'd like to address is the building size. And I know it's been referenced before, and I'm not going to belabor it because it's not this development, but just for comparison and to connect to my concern, I put in the Zillow listing for the Jackson Road development and some actual pictures, so you can see that it's being developed according to the CAD drawings in the Zillow advertisement. And what happened there, and there's not enough information here to know what's going to happen here, is they put fully dormered walk-up attics with full-size windows. So they've essentially got 4 stories. And I would encourage you to just drive up to that development, because it sure feels like it's higher than 35 feet as well. And so my concern is that, not knowing what the actual homes are going to look like, the height and the planning board, if this subdivision is approved, I'm asking that there be some real constraints and very clear parameters put in place in terms of number of stories, building height, and not just take someone's word for it. I think that the residents and the planning board got a little bamboozled on that one. My next comment just has to do with my confidence level that the same thing won't happen again if left to its own devices, and my request for the planning board to really step in on this. I put in the packet on page 8 the email that I sent to Mr. DeFelice after our last conversation, which shows that we had agreed to meet, and I never got a response from it. Back in 2018, when we had the predatory development on Route 40, actually, Anita put in a public records request as a resident for emails during that time, and one of the emails that's in the packet was from Mr. DeShane, where he referred to the public and the residents in the community as the opposition. And we've had plenty of developers who come into this town and roll up their sleeves and work with the residents. And my confidence in this has just really waned because I think the receptivity and the history in the past is just not there right now to show that they're willing to work with us. And then I have, the last thing I'd like to do is just address errors and omissions in the package. So the waiver request letter from the applicant is dated October 26th, but it didn't show up until January 10th for the public. My husband is noted on the applicant's drawings as Mark S. Timmons, and his initials should be Mark R. Timmons. The applicant's stormwater management calculation appendices are missing, and my question to you is that acceptable? And there are 2 abutter lists submitted by the applicant. So if you go to the handout in page 11, what you see on page 11 is what was in the applicant's packet from the town of Westford. And it said that because their GIS system doesn't cover Chelmsford, they picked 266 Groton Road to get an abutters list. And yet the 2 pages that they pulled have the exact same names on both pages. So they pulled 5 abutters total. If you go to our own GIS system and click on 266 Groton Road, there are 13 abutters. And I've provided those on the next couple of pages. I think lucky for you guys, those 13 abutters were covered by the letter that went through with the Chelmsford Assessor's Office, or their list of abutters. I did check that. But I just, the lack of attention to detail and some of these gross errors also just erodes my confidence in the path going forward. And fundamentally, we don't feel the lot dimensions and characteristics lend themselves to a valid subdivision and one that fits the existing character of the surrounding areas. But if the board decides to approve the subdivision, we would like very careful attention paid to anything that you can do regarding the foliage, trees, and screening, and the building size and height, and not leave those aspects to chance. Thank you.
All right. I'll take one more. Try to keep it quick if you could.
I certainly will. Joe Tierney, 3 Grant Street.
Right.
I come in here, I'm actually the current chair of the Vinyl Square Committee.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you for all the time you put in here. And we do some developments too in Vinyl Square and in town, whether it be playgrounds and things like that. And one of the and Bill Gillette was here with me earlier too, in support of the community in the north area, and that's whether it be the residents directly in that area or the people of all north that are seeing the traffic increase. And when I hear waiver and some of the concerns that were already said, and I won't repeat them, I get concerned because there's a lot going on in north, and the primary concern is traffic, and there was some other, as you know, suggestions of what they wanted to put in on Route 40, and that was thankfully one of the first items on my second meeting as chair. And so I just know the temperament and the pulse of the neighborhood. And it just, to me, is it a coincidence? Yeah, I guess it is, that it's the same owner looking to come in here and do this development. That I don't know, but what I just, again, want to point out to the waivers, I would think twice about issuing granting them, because we really are concerned about the traffic and development in that area. And I know it's going to open and continue, so I'll let us go tonight. But I just want to make sure you consider those things, because not all the neighbors are here, but I hear it a lot dealing with other developments in the north. And I just wanted to make sure that you consider the voices that aren't even here, because they're here and I hear them, and I'm just here to convey that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see anybody else, and at this point, it's probably time to continue the public hearing. You guys have anything additional you want to say, or do you have enough information? Good, I think we...
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you've noticed, but Chelmsford's kind of done with multi-family developments. We've been really overbuilt, and this is North Chelmsford, and then there's other, so you may want to even consider, I don't know, I'm just kind of giving you that, there's a lot of pressure out there. I mean, people are just kind of fed up across town, not just in North Chelmsford. So I would, encourage working as closely as you can with the abutters and getting them on your side and finding an equitable solution for everybody.
I have a question on a totally different matter. How old is the house?
1925.
1925.
We've been before the Historic Commission to seek our demo permit.
Okay.
Good. So there's like a inventory proceeding, et cetera?
We've been through that whole process,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say just one thing in light of the comments and even some of the board's most recent comments. Clearly, there is a significant amount of hostility towards Mr. DeFelice in light of his previous activities. Well, that's certainly people are, and I'm learning quickly that I too am a well-loved figure in town, I guess. But I want to remind the board, we're here for a subdivision, okay? Under subdivision control laws of this state and this town. And we're just here seeking permission to technically subdivide this property into 2 lots. And in order to do that, you are required to approve it if we show that we meet those subdivision rules and regulations. Now, we are asking for waivers, so that does open a new can of worms, okay? And I want people to understand that in doing a subdivision, we don't have to show you the buildings. We don't have to show you the sizes. We don't have to show you locations. We don't have to show you anything. The reason we do is because we want the board to consider the project as a whole in light of the waivers we've requested. Okay? If we weren't seeking any waivers, I have to show you nothing more than a plan that the lots meet it, and we built the road correctly, and we're all done here. Okay? So this sort of these statements that, my client doesn't have the right to do this, and it's not what we want, it's not what we care about. I will remind those people that their homes were built through a subdivision. And so why doesn't my client, despite his, their personal feelings about him, have the right to do that? And I know the board knows this, but I think people do need to hear this, that we're just here for a subdivision. And their ability to get that subdivision has nothing to do with who's the applicant, who's the attorney, or who's the engineer. It's whether we meet the laws of this state and your board. And I know you know that, but based on a lot of these comments, I don't think people understand that we all have property rights. And whether we're a good person or a bad person or otherwise, we need to be treated the same way under the law. So we will come back, we will answer all of your questions, we will get the fire department, and I will provide you significant more information on the basis for the waivers. And and I will answer the question, show us how these waivers are beneficial to the town. And I will provide that. And the board's familiar with it. I wonder how many subdivisions this board has waived at least one sidewalk on, if not more than one. And how many times that granite curbing has been...
Excuse me.
I'm sorry,
You're getting I have one thing to say. We're getting your frontage from the private road. Show us a plan with 53 feet, not 40, and come back to us. This plan does not fit the criteria.
Okay, well, if it doesn't fit the
Simple as
criteria.
that. I don't want to waste any time. Just come back with the right plan.
You have the right plan, sir. That road, that 40-foot right-of-way is what's required under your bylaws. And the 22 feet of pavement is what's required under your bylaws. And we are creating legal frontage with that road, as we are allowed to do. So with all due respect, I don't understand where the question is, that our plan doesn't meet the subdivision control laws with the exception of the waivers. Even your town engineer has not suggested that our plan doesn't meet those rules.
The fire department has a big question, right?
They have a question that we need to show them that they can turn around that particular truck. We've actually done that plan, and it is to be submitted. We're gonna go sit with the fire chief.
All right, come back with that. That's what I'm saying.
I think that's what's going to be happening here. We're obviously continuing, and we've got a list on the table now of things to look at, and I think that's all pretty well understood.
I like to see something without the waivers too. I like to see how that would just kind of be drawn out
exactly.
personally.
Exactly.
Because
That would
as you
be
know,
helpful.
where I stand with
That's
waivers.
where I was going with the question.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
We will do that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, hey, thank you. Thank you, Attorney. All right, I think at this point, it's probably time for a continuance of the public hearing.
Okay, do
And,
you guys
do we-
need 2 weeks or 4 weeks?
I would suggest the February 8th meeting, or the first meeting.
Can we make that, is that looking crazy?
It's, you got Kidder, 270 and 250.
Yeah, that'll be a
Yeah,
full
we can
meeting,
do
but
that.
we can do it.
All right, motion to continue to February 8th.
Have a motion?
Second.
But do we need to close the public hearing first?
No.
No,
Yeah.
we're continuing the
Sorry,
public
sorry.
We're
hearing.
continuing
Or
it.
continue, okay, fine.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, we'll see you in 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is.
Nominally 4 weeks.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
What's next?
Yeah.
Not a lot.
Well, I think.
Just while the room's clearing out, your next meeting is January 25th. That's the continuation of the Davis River Neck Road.
Okay,
Okay.
that's likely to be a fairly well-attended meeting.
Yes, it is. It's also the opening of your zoning public hearing, as well as your rules and regulation revision hearing.
Okay.
It's an opening. You don't need to spend a significant amount of time on that, but the hearing is scheduled to open.
Okay.
So those are.
I would suggest we do Davis first. I think we need to be pretty fresh for that.
Yeah.
And then we can handle the zoning as we can afterwards.
We having that here?
Evan,
Yeah.
the zoning stuff, does that include the environmental checklist?
Yes, for the rules and regulations,
Yeah.
yes.
Can we do anything in that checklist to beef up the expectations for tree cover?
We can add tree cover.
I'm just saying that it is,
Yeah, I'm
you know,
aware
it
it's a hot-
affects environmental.
I'm aware
It's
it's a
hot-
very hot topic item.
It's a hot button.
I'm aware that there was an email. I wasn't on that email.
Oh, I'll send you a copy of it. It's a.
As some board members know, the zoning talks about trees and landscaping in very
But-
specific and particular manners, and doesn't for other things.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm just wondering if we can, you know, put
Yeah.
something in there that,
Yeah.
Put a
yeah, we-
hook into
yeah,
it.
We can definitely do that. Yep.
I have another quick question when we're doing the zoning. We had extended a kind of invitation to the people who have kind of ambivalent zoning, like the guy on Monmouth who has part of his property residential and
Yeah,
part IA.
we had him in.
And that we had said we would generate a list of those properties in town, and somebody said, I think there's 20 or so of them, and that we would invite those people to choose. Is that something that we're gonna do?
It won't make Springtown meeting.
Yeah.
It's obviously on your list. And I think at some point, the list is growing and the board's gonna have to
Right.
prioritize. Something like that, there's already a provision in the zoning bylaw that speaks specifically to split lots.
Yeah.
When a lot is split by two zoning districts. And it says that a zoning district can be extended up to 30 feet with a special permit from the zoning board. So, you know.
It covers a lot of the
It's,
cases.
it-
May not
yeah,
get all of them.
there's
but
at
it
least
gets
a
lot of them.
mechanism,
Yeah.
if that property owner wanted to pursue one zoning over another zoning. But it probably fits into the larger planning board goals of trying to address, conflicts and clean up the zoning map.
I would think
Yeah.
so, yeah. Okay,
So the only other item not related to schedules, but my office forwarded out to Planning Board and Zoning Board, the annual Citizen Planner Training Conference in March.
Which is good.
Back in person, I believe, at Holy Cross in March.
Which is highly recommended.
Yes, I highly
What's the-
recommend it.
Do you know the date? I'll
It's
go, I'll
either-
dig it out.
It's March 15th, the weekend of St. Patty's is what it usually is.
Oh, yeah, that should be good at Holy Cross.
So maybe it's Friday, March 17th, but I'll send it back out.
Yeah.
Strongly recommend it, particularly just based upon, a high-level conversation we had this evening, confusion about subdivision control.
Yeah, are they doing their one on subdivisions?
Likely.
This time,
I
they
usually do.
It's a regular, and it's
Yeah, they usually do.
Yeah.
it might be worth,
It's really, really worthwhile.
yeah. I've done
It's
a bunch
yeah,
of
it's a
them.
good event. You get to meet your peers from, other communities and
Find out you're not
network
alone.
and brainstorm and good citizen trainer sessions. That's all I have.
Okay,
I had some good conversations there one year over preservation of old structures.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got some good ideas.
Yeah, some of the best part of it's just sitting at a table munching croissants and talking to other
Yeah.
planners. Okay, it sounds like we've come to the end of the meeting. You have an item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I had sent in a request for continuance for 270 Billerica Road.
Yes.
However,
We did.
I did want to make a personal appearance, just to sort of give you a background on the...
Oh, fill us in, what's up?
Yeah, what's up? So,
Status would be nice.
I know in the past you've been very generous in allowing us continuances,
Yeah.
but I wanted just to come in and let you know what was going
Yeah,
on so you
thanks.
could understand. And it's kind of quite simple. You'll recall, when we last met, we were close. We had a few tweaks to make, but I think we had done a good job of getting the board comfortable with the building and its location, buffers, and again, we've worked quite hard with the board. However, at that time, things were also, as you know, the economy has been somewhat of a turmoil, especially with regard to building costs.
Yeah.
They have, at the
Balloon.
time, months ago, they were literally spiraling out of control. And so my client had to take a step back and make sure that this project as presented was going to, be economically feasible. And quite honestly, things got tight. So we took some time to go back and work with the landowner with respect to the purchase contract.
Yeah.
We also went back to the market to figure out exactly what the building was going to cost. And
Yeah.
no surprise, significantly more than when we started.
Yeah.
So the clients have now gone back and reanalyzed the entire project, and what we are doing is making some changes to the project. We are going to propose a slight increase in the size of the project, which I've been told will not have any impact on the aesthetic view of it's probably going to be around the back kind of a thing. It does necessitate a couple extra parking spots, which we have more than ample room to do, so we adjusting the parking lot, and then, of course, we had to make sure the drainage was still
right.
consistent. So those revisions and plans, I'm told by our engineers, will be available this week for submission, and we expect that, they'll need to be reviewed again by your peer review consultant, the drainage will, so we'll have to enter into a contract with them. But I do want to say too that in talking with Evan, we are also going to re-advertise for the next hearing. Because
Okay.
we are proposing an increase in the size.
Okay.
So town council and Evan, we've talked, and, we
safe
think
thing
we
to
should
do.
give the abutters notice that it's changing in size. So we will be re-noticing everyone. So if the board is agreeable to that continuance, I will file notices based on the new continuation date.
I see no problem. Well, we've granted the
All right.
continuance,
So
so
great.
you're all set to go.
So we will make sure that's done, and I look forward to meeting with you on that. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Doug. Okay. I think we may be down to the last great
Well, I
motion.
guess I've done all the motions tonight, so I guess I'll do one more.
Bated breath.
Motion to close this meeting and adjourn.
Yeah. Second by Paul.
Second by Paul. In favor?
Aye.
Thanks, guys.